So this is part 3 of my blog post on creating custom components inside of CQ or ADEP platform, WEM platform. In this demonstration, I'm going to show you how to create a brand new component completely from scratch, not inheriting from a foundation component or overlaying a foundation component. This is completely a brand new component that somebody needs for the site. So we're going to start out back on the welcome page. Again, this is the Adobe Digital Enterprise platform, and this is the console. CQ, your console is going to look a little bit different, but it has the same functionality. You just kind of get to the functionality a little different path. All right, so I'm going to go into websites real quick. And we're going to go over to the demo page that was created in the first and second demo. So I'm going to go to the geometrics demo site. I'm going to go to English, and I'm going to go to the events node. Instead of events, I have my Max demo page. This can be any page. I'm just using this as a demonstration. So we're going to open up this page, take a peek at it. I will be providing a package that has all this code on it, so you guys can download this off the blog. So as you can see, this is the same page that we had with the last two examples. We have the overlaid text component here, and then we have the legal text component, which is the inherited text component beneath it. So now marketing calls you up and goes, great job, you've done a great job overlaying the text component and creating that new legal text component. What we need you to do now is a completely brand new component that doesn't exist in CQ. For example, they need me to do a stock ticker component. And there's no stock ticker component is installed by default in CQ or WEM. So what we're going to do is we're going to start out by going to our development environment and getting started. So what we're going to do is go back to the home page. We're going to go down to CRXDE Lite. You can also just get to that by typing in CRXDE up here. So go to your instance and type in CRXDE. That also gets you to the same place. This is CRXDE Lite IDE. I introduced this in the first video. It's basically a web-based development environment for the CQ WEM or ADEP. ADEP platform. Wait, did I say that already? Sorry. For the ADEP WEM platform or the CQ5 platform. All right, so anyways, this is the CRXDE Lite. In our first demonstrations, I went into creating things, and I talked about where you need to go. And again, the same rule applies when we're creating this brand new text component, this brand new stock ticker component. All the work you're going to do is going to be in the apps directory. So we're going to go into apps and create a namespace if it doesn't already exist. And in this case, I'm going to put it underneath the AAA namespace or folder. So it's going to be an apps AAA. AAA stands for Adobe to Adobe, which is the team that I work on. I'm going to go in here, and we need to start out by creating a brand new component. So I'm going to use the wizard, and I'm going to right-click on the AAA directory, and I'm going to create a new component. So I'm going to hit the Create Component dialog here. I'm going to come up here. Now label's going to end up just like it was in the inherited text demo. This is going to end up being your node name. So we're going to make it Stork Ticker? No, Stock Ticker. All lowercase, one word, no special characters, just Stock Ticker, because that's going to be the name of the node, and we need that to be as error-prone as possible. We're going to, there we go, Stroke Ticker again. What is that? What are my fingers doing? All right, Stock Ticker. So this is I'm going to put in here now, demo stock ticker. And this is the description that's going to show up in the sidekick. Now, because this component is brand new and it's not inheriting its behavior from anywhere else, we're not going to put a super type in here. We are going to put a group in here, Adobe to Adobe, because that gives me the chance to say Adobe to Adobe one more time. And it also brings all our components together in a nice, neat structure inside the sidekick so we can find everything. We're going to go to next. Again, the options for creating a component are exactly the same as creating an inherited component. Is our new application, is our new component a container? Like, is there another component that would be embedded in this component or could be embedded in this component? For example, on the stock ticker component, we could have it could be a container for another component that was maybe a graph component that would show a graph over time or something. That the author could drag into only the stock ticker component. But we're not doing that. We're not creating a container. In the decoration, this again is this when we drop this onto the page, by default when it renders it's going to wrap it in a div. Do we not want that div? We don't care. We can allow that div. I'm not going to go into cell name or dialog path at this moment. Let's go on next. Allowed parents. We were going to allow this stock ticker anywhere. We could put it, as only in the parses, which would be probably the safest route. But it really doesn't matter for this demo. And then allowed children, we don't have. We're not creating the graph component, so we really don't need to specify any allowed children. So we're going to hit OK. So now we're going to look and see that the stock ticker node was created over here under AAA. We're going to look at the properties of the node, and we're going to notice that it has a primary type of CQ component. It has a title defined, a description defined, and a component group defined. And just to note, these little red triangles here, that means I need to save. So like I've stressed over the last other two videos, or maybe 3 if you get the bonus DVD features, you need to hit the Save All button. I need to see it, especially when using the web IDE, you need to hit that button again. Every other change, it's just safe, and it causes you a lot less pain if you do. Then don't. All right, so we're going to open this up, and if you look, we have a stock ticker component, and then the main entry point, based on sling resolution, the name for the node is stock ticker, so therefore the main entry point is going to be stockticker.jsp. You need to look into sling resolution a little bit to understand that, but by default, just knowing that's enough to get by. So the default text in here is just to include the global.jsp, which this default include file defines some namespaces and some auto imports for us to make things easier for us long term. All right, so I'm going to get rid of this comment here. I'm going to say stock ticker, and I want to demonstrate something to you that's a little trick. So if I go back to our demo page and open it up, we're going to look at this demo page. Now we're going to look in the sidekick. So the sidekick, as I flip through all these component groups here, you're going to see it doesn't contain the stock ticker component. And when I go into design mode, and I click on the whoops, that's the wrong one. And when I click on the parses here, I'll look through all the available components that can be included in this parses. I'll go down to my Adobe to Adobe group. And there's no stock ticker component. A little trick here. Unless the component has an edit dialog, it won't show up in the sidekick. So what we'll do is we'll go back to the stock ticker node, and we're going to right click on it, hit create, and we're going to create a dialog. We're going to label it dialog and give it a title of my dialog. All right, let's call it. Let's get fancy with the name. My stock ticker dialog. Ooh. All right, so I hit that, and now we have a dialog node here. So if you click on this, you'll notice down here that it has an X type of dialog, and it has a title of my stock ticker, and the primary type is CQ dialog. So that defines the behavior of that node. So I'm going to hit, as you can tell, the little red triangle means save. So we're going to hit save that. I'm not going to get into the dialog structure too much at this moment. We'll visit that in a minute. But now if we go back to the Max demo page, we'll hit refresh, we will see in the sidekick, now there's an Adobe to Adobe group showing up here. And look, the stock ticker is now showing. And when we drag this into the page, we'll see that it says the words stock ticker. And when I right click on it and open the edit, there's just this, because we right clicked and we created a dialog. This is what the wizard creates, which is a panel with one tab in it and nothing in it, and the very elusive tab 1 or ambiguous tab 1 label there. So great. We have a component. It renders. It's in the right group. It's showing up in sidekick. Next steps. Let's make it do something. So this is our stock ticker component here. I'm going to go down and I'm going to cheat and go into my snippets. And I'm going to grab this code right here that I have borrowed from stockpricetoday.com. I'm going to put it into my component down here, and I'm going to explain it real quick. So basically what it's doing is creating a div, and one of the divs has a style defined on it, and there's styles, and let's see, there's an anchor with a style on it, a div, and then there's a script. Now the script, if you'll notice here, has a source, and in the source for that script is a call to a PHP service. And then if you look down here a little bit further, one of the parameters being passed in is a symbols equals Adobe, right here. So what we're doing is we're telling this stock ticker component to call this script and then to render into this div and show the Adobe stock ticker symbol data. So I'm going to hit save, go back to our Max demo page. There's nothing tricky about that code. That was just HTML that I liberated from stockpricestoday.com. So I'm going to hit refresh. And as you notice, now your stock ticker component is showing Adobe Systems stock price today. Hey, we're up, look at that. All right, and I'm gonna hit edit. Again, the edit dialog has nothing in it. And now this component is only usable by, every time somebody drops an instance of this anywhere in the site, it's just gonna show the Adobe Systems data. Cool, but let's make it a little bit better. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go back over to CRX-DE Lite, and we're gonna go into the edit dialog. So stock ticker dialog items. Items is a widget, and then inside that widget is a widget collection. And inside the widget collection is a panel. And on that panel there's a property called tab 1. It's a nice little structure of items there. It makes sense over time, but it's a little complex at the beginning. So if I go in here and make, say, settings, and then I hit save all, oops. Stay on page, and I hit save all here, and then I refresh the page, and I right click on the stock ticker component. You'll notice the tab 1 has changed to settings. So now I'm going to go back, and we're going to go to tab 1 here, and we can even rename that to settings if we want. Really doesn't matter the node name, and we're going to save that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add into that tab panel a way for the authors to be able to change the stock ticker values that are being shown in the page. So we're going to do that. I'm going to look at my snippets here and make sure I got it right. So I'm going to go over to the items, settings. I'm going to right click. I'm going to create a new node. And this node is going to be named items. And this is going to be a CQ widget collection. All right, so we're going to have another collection. So we have, if you follow my structure here, you have a widget, a collection, a panel, a collection. So what comes next? That's right, a widget. So we're going to create a node here. We're going to call it stock symbols or stock data. Okay, stock symbols, and then we're going to call it, it's going to be an actual CQ widget. We're going to hit new, and we have a stock symbol node there. And it's a primary type of widget. So now based on the primary type, we're going to need to set some properties on here to allow it to display correctly when it renders inside the edit dialog. So I have a cheat sheet here. First we're going to need to go in and set the X type for the widget. The widget here, we know that it's a widget, but it needs to know how to render it. The X type is the type that it's going to be, and this is from the CQ widgets library, which is a JavaScript library that has a predefined number of components in it, a very large number of components. And I'm not really going to go too much into X types. I'll leave that for a later blog post. So come back and check out our blog and wait for the widget blog. All right, so X type widget. We're going to tell it the X type is a text field. That's what we're going to have it render inside this widget. It's going to render as a text field. So the next thing we need is a field label. And each of the X types has different properties that can be defined. Field label is, I think, on all of them. Well, maybe not all of them, but a large number of them. Okay, we're going to put in a label of company symbols. So the label is going to come to the right of the text field, or left of the text field, and it's going to say company symbols. We're going to put in a default value for that field. Okay, the default value is going to be Adobe. All right, we're going to add that node, or property, sorry, not node. Okay, so now here comes this is the meat. So you need to tell this text field where to save the data that gets put in the text field. So that is the name property, and it's also a string. And we're going to say at the node of use, put in company, oops, company symbols. So that's the name of the property that's going to store your values. We're going to hit add there again. Did I get that in there? I did. Okay, cool. All right, so let's go to the next one, which is going to be field description. Field description is a string. It's not mandatory, but it goes along the bottom of your field, and it's just rather handy. So I'm going to get my boilerplate here, my cheat sheet, and I'm going to put it in there and add it. Now all these need to be saved because they have our reminder triangle there. Hit save. So let's go check out the functionality. So now we have an edit dialog, which has a widget in it, which has a widget collection. The widget collection contains a settings panel. The settings panel has a widget collection in it, and that widget collection has a text field in it. And the thing about widget collections that you don't see here, and maybe I'll do a demonstration of this, is you can put in multiple items in a widget collection over a widget. So I could have 5 fields in here, or 10 fields. I could have a text field and a rich text field and a drop-down list. A widget collection contains many other widgets. So that's the distinction there. All right, so I'm going to go back to our Max demo. I'm going to hit refresh. And like I said, widgets and X types could be its own whole entire subject matter. It's its own video altogether. So we're going to hit edit here. And now we have the settings panel, which we changed a minute ago. And now we have a text field that says company symbols. And it says Adobe. And then down here is our text field description. And it says add in company symbols separated by comma that you would like to show. So let's put in Google too. And hit OK. And I think I have to refresh. All right, so it's just showing Adobe Systems still. And that's because our text component, or our stock ticker component, really doesn't read that property. It's just hard-coded still. So let's go look at the code. I'm going to show you 2 things here. 1, where the data was stored, and then 2, how to modify our code to read this value. And this is why it's not showing anything different. This is our code for our component. And if you look, the script source is still only pointing to the Adobe stock ticker. So we need to change that. We need to read in that name value. We need to put it in that particular call right there. But I'm going to go show you where the data is stored first. So if you go down to content, this is where all the content's stored. And we're going to go down to geometrics. Then we're going to go down to English, go down to advanced, and then we're going to drill down to the Max demo page. Then we're going to drill down to the JCR content node. This is where all your content's stored. And then we're going to drill into the par. Now the par is the parsys component that is holding our stock tickers. Now here is the instance of our stock ticker. In that particular page, Max demo. This is that instance on that page. If you go and look, one of the properties that's defined here is called company symbols. And it has the value of Adobe and Google. That's awesome. That's exactly what we want. It also says how to render this node, which is pointing to our stock ticker component that we've created. All right, so we got our data. It's saving, so that means the edit dialog is working properly. Everything is great. So now what we need to do is read in that property and replace this value here with the value that's stored in the JCR repository. Again, I'm going to go back to my snippets because I'm lazy. I'm going to go over to stockticker.jsp, and I'm going to paste this in and then explain it to you. So one of the default imports that is defined up here in the libs foundation global is the properties namespace. Now the properties object is going to be able to do a get. So properties represents the properties of this page in the component. Well, not the component, but the page. So I'm going to call properties.get, and then I'm going to define the name of the property that I want to get, which is company symbols, and I spelled everything correctly. Yeah, it all matches. Okay. And then the second parameter on this method is what to return if the property doesn't exist. So if I make a call to get this property and it doesn't exist, well, basically, if it doesn't exist, it's going to give me this value back. We can have this value be anything, but it's just a really safe way to make sure that we always get something in this symbols property here. So now this string with the symbols, which is being read from here on the page, is now in this variable in JSP here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down to this line where it says symbols. Whoops. So if you remember, this is the script call to stock price today, and it's passing in the symbol there. So we're going to put in JSP output. Okay, so let's look at that. Whoop, where'd it go? Okay, so if you look right here, we have the JSP output. We're going to write out the content of symbols. And symbols is defined right here. We're going to hit save and take a peek at this page. Okay, so it's showing the Adobe Sys information. And if we give it a couple seconds, it should rotate to the Google information. Fades out. Success. Google's up too. Look at that. 610.51. Awesome. Okay, so now we have a stock ticker component that one of your authors could use in any page on the site. So, for example, they could go over to company, Discover Geometrics page. They could go over here and they could grab the stock ticker and they could throw it right there and say they want to change it. So now they can go in here and define who to show. I believe that's correct. Let's see, we put that in there. Refresh the page. And I believe it will show, if I got the symbol right, research in motion. So now they have a reusable stock ticker component that they can drop anywhere on the site and change the properties to be able to display the stock ticker for any particular company they want to see. So that's how to create a custom component in CQ5 or the WEM platform. Okay, so that was the end of part 3. You now know how to make a custom component completely from scratch using the CQ5 or WEM platform. Enjoy.